evening and welcome from Flight 93 National Memorial. It is very exciting to be here this evening to dedicate the 40 wind chimes inside the Tower of Voices. So many of us have been looking forward to this moment for many years as it symbolizes the completion of the Tower of Voices. My name is Stephen Clark, and I have the high honor of serving as the superintendent here at beautiful Flight 93 National Memorial. As I stated in the dedication of the physical structure of this beautiful tower in 2018, this majestic landmark serves as a symbol of strength and courage. It reminds us that the power to take action, even in the face of adversity, is within each of us, as it was with the men and women aboard the plane. End quote. From this day forward, these chimes will symbolize their voice of strength, unity, and courage. I would personally like to welcome the United States Secretary of the Interior, Mr. David Bernhardt, here with us this evening. Secretary Bernhardt, Secretary Bernhardt has truly been following the process and the progress of the wind chimes and has directly supported this project from the department level. It was only a few months ago that the Secretary and I ceremoniously reopened the gates here at Flight 93 on May 15th, after having been closed for several months since March. And the Secretary literally wanted to meet here at the Tower of Voices at 7:15. And he and I met, and the words out of his mouth were very, very clear. Steve, how are we coming on the chimes? And I said, Mr. Secretary, we're getting there. Will they be ready for September 11th? Mr. Secretary, they will be ready for September 11th. And that brings us to this very, very special moment. Joining Secretary Bernhardt on this historic evening is Margaret Everson, who serves as counselor to the Secretary, exercising the delegated authority as the National Park Service Director. And representing the National Park Service from Interior Region 1 is Regional Director Gay Vitsky. Thank you both for being with us this evening. I would also like to recognize Mr. Todd Inman, representing the United States Department of Transportation. Mr. Inman serves as the Chief of Staff for Secretary Elaine Chao. Again, Todd, it is wonderful to have you with us this evening representing the Department of Transportation. Many invaluable partners have made this evening possible. The individuals who have contributed toward the Flight 93 National Memorial and in helping to bring the Tower of Voices project to completion are quite simply too numerous to name. However, the National Park Service and Flight 93 National Memorial Partnership sincerely thank all of you for your heartfelt contributions toward making this now sacred ground a beautiful and fitting location of honor and the final resting place for the heroes of Flight 93. This evening, you will hear from a select group of representatives talk about the dedication of the wind chimes inside the Tower of Voices and what it means to have completed the final construction phase for this 2,200-acre landscape that now celebrates the lives of 40 passengers and crew members. To the many family members here with us this evening, we are truly grateful for your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are very much aware, much of 2020 has been dominated by the global pandemic of COVID-19. Because of this, and out of the abundance of precaution, we know that many family members who wish to be here with us on this special evening, again, especially those families of Flight 93, have opted to watch this evening's program through EarthCam. Your presence is greatly missed this evening. Please know, however, that you are in our hearts, and your spirit of your presence is very much felt here among us. Since the dedication of the physical structure of the Tower of Voices in 2018, we have conducted prototype wind chime testing. As Paul Murdoch, the architect of the memorial, shared with us 2 years ago, tuned chimes of this size and an arrangement of this magnitude are unique in the world. End quote. Mr. Murdoch could not be with us here this evening to celebrate this historic milestone. However, he did ask me to share the following remarks. Mr. Murdoch writes, "This evening, we gather at the base of a tower unlike any in the world, commemorating an unprecedented act unique in our history. As part of this memorial, the tower commemorates the lives and legacy of the 40 passengers and crew members aboard Flight 93. In reflecting on those 40 heroes, as well as on the considerable effort to reach this milestone, I am drawn to the Latin words that formed the motto of the United States at its founding and appears on our country's Great Seal. E pluribus unum, out of many, one." Mr. Murdoch continues, "Inspired by the united action of the 40, a diverse group from all walks of life, it has taken the collective effort of many different people to realize this memorial. It demonstrates that when this partnership has worked together in common purpose, it has achieved great things. We should rightfully mark this day as cause for reflection and celebration of achievement. As we move on from this moment, the memorial remains here to remind us that our democratic experiment calls on each of us, as one out of many, to keep it vital and alive. In remembering the 40, with each sound from this tower, we the people recognize our work together to preserve and protect freedom is ongoing." End quote. So on behalf of Flight 93 National Memorial, Paul, and I know you're watching, thank you for sharing your thoughts, your God-given ability, and your inspiration with us. It is important to be reminded of the long-lasting power that 40 courageous individuals continue to provide for our nation and our future. At this time, I would like to introduce our first speaker. He has the distinction of leading more than 70,000 employees across the United States Department of Interior, to include both the National Park Service and the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, among others. He is the 53rd Secretary of the Interior, and as such, has taken an interest and provided direct support, as I alluded to earlier, to ensuring the completion of these wind chimes. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Secretary David Bernhardt.
Well, good evening, and thank you for inviting me to participate in tonight's dedication. It is a humbling experience to serve as the Secretary of the Interior in President Trump's administration. And last year, I had the opportunity to attend the observance ceremony for the very first time. I did not know what to expect as I arrived, but as the reading of the names of the 40 heroes occurred, it was the most moving moment in my entire professional career. I'm honored to be with you here again. I want to thank the incredible employees of the National Park Service who have dedicated themselves to listening and to serving our great public here and listening to you. So I'd like to give them a round of applause. Thank you. As the superintendent said, the Tower of Voices was first dedicated 2 years ago. And as I visited with some of you last year, I was stunned to learn that things weren't working precisely as they should. And I immediately left saying we would find the additional resources necessary to improve the situation and develop a better solution. Now, I grew up in western Colorado on a ranch. And the main reason I went to college was because I didn't want my career dependent on the weather. And as we drove out here today, all I could think is I need 8 miles an hour of wind, because that's what it takes to know whether these chimes are singing the right song or not. So I will wait until we have another time to say whether we've succeeded in doing what we said. But throughout the last 3 years of our administration, our focus has been to deliver results, not talk about what we're going to do and then not do it. We step up. And that's why we focused on completing this project and many more. Every Secretary of the Interior since Gail Norton, who I had the chance to work for, has held one of the most solemn duties to serve as both the guardian and the caretaker for this memorial, which tells an incredible story. As Steve said, the completion of the Tower of Voices is a culmination of work by all of you and your unflagging dedication to get it done. And it is greatly appreciated. As we rededicate these chimes, which represent 40 souls of those great heroes of Flight 93, I think of the duty and sacrifice for others. It is my hope that going forward, as people stand here, they will reflect on the reality that each of us may be tested at any moment with the need to do what is right to protect others, to protect our sacred freedoms, and to protect our shared American dream and our ideals. It is my hope that if they ever find themselves facing such a test, they will be comforted by the reality of the incredible courage of those who were tested before them right here, and those who chose to act and not wait. Thank you, and may God bless America.
You know, it really pains me personally to not have our ambassadors, members of the public, other partners here with us this evening. Having the families here is obviously always truly an honor to see many of you. And I'm grateful for your continued support from the families of Flight 93. However, I felt compelled because after so many years, ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the National Park Service, standing to my right, have put so much love and passion into this memorial each and every day. And I felt that they too needed to be here to witness this moment. And if I may ask, that you please acknowledge these incredible men and women in the back. Thank you all so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a representative from the National Park Foundation was unable to be with us this evening to provide remarks. The National Park Foundation, the congressionally chartered philanthropic partner of the National Park Service, without a doubt played a central role in funding the permanent Flight 93 Memorial and the construction of the Tower of Voices. And because of their involvement, this project simply would not have been possible. They have much to be proud of this evening. Since 2005, the National Park Foundation has partnered with the National Park Service, the families of Flight 93, and this community here in Western Pennsylvania and many other stakeholders across the nation to support the memorial design and constructions. To date, the foundation has granted approximately $45 million from over 110,000 generous individuals and organizations that believed in this memorial and its mission to honor the passengers and crew members. While they were unable to send a representative to be here in person, the National Park Foundation joins us here virtually in recognizing the completion of the Tower of Voices as a symbolic icon unique to this memorial. On behalf of the National Park Service and the American people, I would like to send our sincere thanks to the staff and our incredible partners at the National Park Foundation and their unwavering support of Flight 93 National Memorial and their dedication to the Tower of Voices. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I would like to introduce Ms. Donna Gibson. Donna serves as the president of the Families of Flight 93 and has served on the board of directors since 2015. She initially became involved with the memorial by volunteering for the annual reforestation program, a program we like to refer to as Plant a Tree at Flight 93. She sought to give back more by completing the volunteer training to serve the visiting public as a Flight 93 ambassador. In her professional life, she serves as a vice president and market manager with First National Bank. I truly have come to rely on her integrity, on her passion, and her insight regularly. Donna Gibson, you are a champion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Donna Gibson.
Good evening. It's truly an honor to be here this evening and to share with you some insights about this partnership that has got us to this day. Steve took away part of my thunder talking about the original partnership, which was in 2005, the Flight 93 National Memorial Campaign. This campaign was created as the very first partnership with representation from families, the Flight 93 Federal Advisory Commission, the Flight 93 Memorial Task Force, the National Park Service, and the National Park Foundation. Additionally, many local, state, and national organizations, as well as people from all over the world, collaborated with a common goal to build a permanent memorial on these sacred grounds. This public-private partnership's goal was to raise $30 million for design and construction of this permanent memorial. Once the design was approved, construction began and Phase 1, the Wall of Names, completed and dedicated on September 10, 2011. On September 10, 2015, the Visitor Center was open to the public, and the final construction phase, the Tower of Voices, was dedicated on September 10, 2017. The Flight 93 National Memorial Campaign exceeded their original goal of $30 million and raised over $45 million, as Steve mentioned, in less than 12 years. In 2009, the Friends of Flight 93 were organized and added to the National Memorial Campaign Partnership as the official nonprofit organization supporting the memorial. The completion of Flight 93 Memorial Campaign marked the achievement of the missions of the families of Flight 93, and at that time, the Friends became the primary philanthropic partner to the Park Service. From 2009 to present day, the Friends have supported the memorial with programs that raise funds, educate, and/or raise awareness. Plant a Tree, as Steve mentioned, is one of those programs. Since 2012, our partnership with the National Park Service for this reforestation of this site has attracted over 4,000 volunteers, contributing in excess of 20,000 hours of service and planting 130,000 seedlings. Plant a Tree has become so successful that within hours of the registration portal opening, we reached our maximum volunteer capacity. Partnerships with the community, businesses, the National Chestnut Foundation, the National Arbor Day Foundation, the offices of Mine Safety and Engineering, foresters from all over the region, and Penn State University provide valuable resources contributing to the success of the program. In 2014, Somerset County Leadership Program partnered with the Friends to create Walk 93. This fundraising and awareness program continues to build momentums and partnerships with the community and the businesses. In 2019, our Ranger-led walk had over 200 participants, with national and local companies recruiting walkers and virtual walkers. Funds raised from this program have contributed to building the Memorial Trail of Remembrance, which was dedicated last fall. Grants from the Richard E. Mellon and Allegheny Foundations made it possible for the Friends to hire an education specialist. During the initial phase of the pandemic, when the memorial was closed to the public, this resource gave the Friends the ability to partner with schools, teachers, and parents. The Friends delivered over 48,000 digital copies of 9/11 activities throughout the region to assist our educators. When the memorial is open for business as usual, the Pittsburgh Pirate Charities and the Pittsburgh Penguin Foundation provide transportation funding to bring children to this memorial to learn about the 40 heroes. Carnegie Museum of Natural History, Powder Mill Nature Reserve, Summers Mouse Honey, and the National Pollinator Project will serve as resources for the Friends as we develop programs to educate and attract new audiences to this memorial. Education will focus on how the 8 honeybees that house over 500,000 bees across 2 locations at this memorial help to balance the natural biodiversity of the beautiful living memorial we are in this evening. Partnerships with Cornell University Ornithology Program and the Nemec Forbes Way Foundation will help the Friends attract and illustrate to young audiences, as well as bird lovers of all ages, the role of the 26 native bird species play in the rehabilitation of the memorial landscape. The joint venture with the National Park Service to create a distance learning studio will be one more way we will reach more diverse audiences and tell the story with worldwide accessibility. The University of Pittsburgh Flight 93 research team continues to be a resource to both the Friends and the National Park Service. Collaborating on projects like the Junior Ranger Program, recorded walking tours, the education programs delivered on site, these partners work with us to ensure that our messaging is appropriate for the intended audiences. The Oral History Project is once again in the forefront of development, partnering with our very special friends Kathy Schaefer and Donna Gibson with the goal to eventually have these interview transcripts available to the public. Individuals and businesses in the state of Pennsylvania can now earn tax credits while supporting educational programming at Flight 93 through the EITC program. This is possible thanks to the Friends being approved as a state organization providing educational opportunities outside of the classroom. As you've heard, and as you've seen, and as you've experienced, partnerships are pivotal to the success of this memorial. The Friends will continue to work with the National Park Service to identify partnership opportunities that will enhance the visitor experience, bring new audiences to the memorial, either in person or virtually, maintain the relevance of the Flight 93 story for generations to come, develop new audiences and ways to engage and educate individuals of all ages about the 40 heroes whose stories live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna, for your kind words about our partnership, and we truly look forward to the future, as you mentioned, of connecting new generations to this special place. Your words are truly heartfelt. Flight 93 National Memorial is a success in large part due to the personal involvement and the steadfast and unwavering support from the organization that represents the passengers and crew members of Flight 93, the families of Flight 93. Here this evening to speak on behalf of this group is Mr. Patrick White and Mr. Gordon Felt. Sharing his reflection at this time is Pat White. Pat's cousin, Joey Nackey, was a passenger aboard Flight 93 on the morning of September 11th. Following the loss of Joey, Mr. White turned his career as a land use lawyer toward assisting the creation of Flight 93 National Memorial. Patrick has served as president and vice president on the board of directors for the families of Flight 93, as well as the Friends. His efforts led to the acquisition of a significant amount of property on behalf of the families that subsequently was sold in creation of this amazing place. Patrick and his wife Dawn are both proud parents and grandparents. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Mr. Patrick White.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Superintendent Clark, for the introduction and the opportunity to be here along with our distinguished dignitaries. Secretary Bernhardt, many thanks for your words, and most sincerely, sir, your direct assistance in bringing these chimes into reality. President Gibson, much appreciation for your thoughtful remarks on the value of our partnerships. A warm and somewhat soggy late summer welcome, one and all. This is a sacred privilege for me to speak on behalf of all the families whose loved one perished close by, consecrating the field of honor. More personally, our extended family's lost loved one, Louis Joey Nackey II, would have had his 61st birthday just yesterday. His actions, aiding in the assault of the cockpit, serves as a beacon of bravery of them all. May God rest their souls. My brief message here is of the family's gratitude for the commissioning of the Chimes, of our unity of purpose in seeing the last of the major elements of the memorial design to its end, and of hope for the future. Today is thus about completion, coming full circle, closure. Through the collective efforts of too many to mention here, the 40 chimes were successfully installed just last week. I was privileged to observe as the 8 interconnected columns of concrete, each had its chimes components attached at 5 staggered different heights. The 93-foot tall structure behind me we know simply as the Tower of Voices is, in its essence, an outdoor, all-weather, 4-season musical instrument. Both physically and symbolically, it's unique in the world. There is no other in scale, function, and purpose. As time inexorably moves on, we recognize ever more closely and clearly that the same is true of the unified actions of the flight crew and passengers aboard Flight 93. Those 40, largely strangers to one another, were unique in being the first aboard a commercial aircraft to band together to successfully repel a terror attack. Their spontaneous actions defeated the attacker's carefully crafted and concealed plot. So doing, the 40 prevented grievous harm to our nation's Capitol building and its thousands of occupants. That is true. But that heroism can also be understood as one collective voice emphatically saying no to the hatred in the cockpit of a Boeing 757. As a slight aside, I note symbolically how that aircraft's carefully and respectfully sifted remnants were recently buried not far from the large boulder on the sacred ground, marking the place of the plane's primary point of impact. The plane and its people, now together, here. Another circle closed. Like those 40 people, representatives of the National Park Foundation, of the Federal Advisory Commission, of the Flight 93 Memorial Task Force, and of our National Park Service's Gray and Green, over these past hundreds plus months, have worked together with one voice to bring this tower and memorial to fruition. They and the many contractors have our unending gratitude for each unseen action that moved this memorial toward completion of its original design. So almost 19 years on, as we few gather together to dedicate and commission these precisely tuned aluminum tubes and shiny stainless steel assemblies, it is in an America that has seemingly lost the message engraved on the stainless band I wear that has reminded me almost daily of our truth. United, we stand. We were then, of almost a generation ago. We remember a country shaken deeply, but soon strong in its solidarity to recover and to root out the purveyors of the gut-wrenching, heartbreaking pain we suffered. In those dark days, like the brilliant column of light we'll very soon see nearby, which simultaneously will also rise skyward above the Pentagon and Twin Tower sites. It was those aboard Flight 93 who served as a singular point of light, signaling that together we could overcome our fears. As we have come to know in ever greater detail since, they rose and voted to speak as one, saying, "Not today," to terror. Our faith and our hope are this tower will stand and carry their voices so far into the future that generations to come will always remember courage through adversity. Through the power of unseen winds, as envisioned by the design of architect Paul Murdoch, represented here by team member Nord Imbroden, each anonymous Chimes voice adds to the others to create an infinitely changing harmony. Together, I hope their voices echo in perpetuity the message of the power of shared voices to do what no one alone can ever achieve. The power of being united is truly how we stand as a people, as a nation, and as an ever smaller and closely connected world. We, like the 40, although in certainly much extreme terms today, face calamitous and unprecedented circumstances, perhaps not remembering the truth of United We Stand. We hear so many disparate voices seeking to have their story heard. The legacy of Flight 93, though, is by listening to each other and standing together today as one, even at the cost of our own lives, physically, economically, and even politically. We can overcome the most humanly frightening challenges to secure a better, safer future for those we love. As I've stood encircled by the tower's columns, looking up and hearing the chimes, the message to me is I have faithfully completed the tasks I promised so many years ago to my godmother, to Joey's mom, and to every one of the families. At long last, for those that know the phrase perhaps too well, that fourth and final D, done. Our commissioning of these chimes, rededicating the Tower Voices, and completing the memorial design allows me now to truly refocus and begin the deep inner healing that I have known for years is still to be done. And that work will hopefully bring the most lasting peace. I sincerely wish and pray the same for all of us. Thank you.
Pat White. Pat White. Pat, your personal passion and continued commitment. Folks, Pat White has taught me an awful lot over the last 5 years. You see, I've been with the Park Service 35 years or whatever it's been, and 30 of those or so has been as a ranger, a law enforcement officer. Folks, I don't know anything about construction. I still don't. And I sure as heck didn't in 2015. I have learned so much from Pat White. But you know, Pat, he mentioned the fourth D as done, right? You have to admit, at some point you must have said to yourself, right, Debbie, what are the first three? Pat White told me this about 4.5, 5 years ago, and to this day, come to my office. It's right there. I have it right above my phone. So if you are wondering what those 4 Ds are, those would be design, dirt, dollars, and ladies and gentlemen, this evening we are truly all here to witness one of the most significant Ds, as Pat alluded to, done. Pat White, that was fantastic. Thank you. Folks, our final speaker this evening is Mr. Gordon Fell. I and many others know him fondly as Gordy, and have come to rely on his friendship over the last several years. Gordy's brother, Edward Fell, was a passenger aboard Flight 93. Gordy continues to champion his brother's memory and of all the passengers and crew members, having served as the president for the families of Flight 93 for many years. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Gordon Fell.
I've always said that through this process, I've gotten to know the most extraordinary group of people I wish I never had to meet. From those early days when our families were first brought together at Seven Springs Resort, to the task force meetings, design competition trips across the country, fundraising events, land dispute mediations, groundbreakings, dedications, reinternments, annual events, and today's ceremony that marks the completion of the development phase of the Flight 93 National Memorial. I've always operated in a state of awe and have been motivated out of respect, not only for our 40 heroes, but for the thousands of people that have come together for the sole purpose of creating this awesome memorial. From the beginning, NPS legends, Joanne Hanley, Jeff Reinbold, Keith Newland, and Steve Clark, all embraced the wisdom of offering chairs at the planning table to our families, the local community, and stakeholders from the National Park Foundation, the Flight 93 Memorial Task Force, Friends of Flight 93, historians, design experts, and citizens from afar eager to join the broader Flight 93 family. It was a large table. It was a round table. It has always been inclusive, deliberative, process-oriented, and respectful, never losing sight of our goals, a model for representative leadership. Even before our families arrived to experience that first glimpse of the torn and mangled sacred ground where our loved ones lost their lives, we began to understand their loss was beyond personal. Looking through the windows of the buses that brought us to this site, we witnessed flags held by children, parents holding signs of gratitude for the actions of our loved ones, and first responders saluting at full attention. The impact and import of the Flight 93 story forced us to acknowledge that our loss was shared by the nation and claimed by history. It has been an honor and privilege to have a seat at the table throughout this process, representing the interests and passions of the families of Flight 93. From the beginning, our intentions have always been to help create a memorial to our loved ones that would project a level of dignity and honor, telling the factual story of their collective actions, while at the same time remembering each of our 40 individual heroes. As we stand here on the eve of the 19th anniversary, celebrating the installation of 40 chimes in the Tower of Voices, I'm filled with emotion. I'm grateful to those that interpreted the words or sentiment impossible as, let's find an expert. This Tower of Voices project, as the entire memorial project, has been filled with instances where the diverse backgrounds and life experiences of our memorial partnership have allowed for us to bring the best our country has to offer together so that we could achieve the extraordinary results so beautifully designed by Paul Murdoch and his team. His vision speaks for our 40 heroes in a way so perfect that if you look and listen closely, you'll hear and feel their passion and know that their memory is embraced in the love of a grateful nation. The memorial, this Tower of Voices, and in particular the sacred ground, are the great equalizer. As we stand here honoring our loved ones, the 40 heroes of Flight 93, we're not family members, nor are we politicians, special interest groups, or special for that matter. We are simply citizens of the world, standing in the shadow of 40 heroes. The beauty of the Flight 93 National Memorial is that we are drawn together to honor those that in the end, under the most extreme circumstances, affirmed our certitude that even when chaos and evil challenge us as a people, heroes will rise and give us hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordy. Your voice has always found a way to eloquently mark so many occasions here at this special place. Thank you for your well thought out and your absolute powerful message. And again, folks, you develop a bond, a relationship with others. And without question, both Pat and Gordy and Kenny and Debbie and all of the family members at one time or another were there to listen, there to mentor, and always there as my friend. And I'll never forget any of you. Currently, at the base of the Tower of Voices stands a floral arrangement to symbolically recognize the 40 passengers and crew members aboard Flight 93. But this isn't just a wreath. Folks, this is a wreath that means so much because the wreath contains 40 protea, which symbolically stands for courage, diversity, and strength, and reminds us of their 40 voices here today. In addition to the protea, there are 5 white roses that represent the partnership that has helped us reach this milestone today. 4 of those roses represent the 4 cardinal points: north, south, east, and west. Because the passengers and crew members of Flight 93 made a difference felt the world over. The 5th rose serves as the center point for our tremendous community and dedicated ambassadors who serve on its behalf. When Flight 93 crashed here in 2001, the community of Shanksville and surrounding communities in western Pennsylvania opened its doors to the families of Flight 93 and to their loved ones who eternally rest here on this serene landscape. At that moment, out of one community, a new community was forged. One dedicated to ensuring a permanent memorial was dedicated here that would tell the important story for generations to come. You know, when Donna shared her beautiful remarks, she mentioned many of the incredible organizations and individuals who were so integral for the success that we enjoyed to this moment. But I truly believe it bears repeating. That community that represents this credible partnership includes the families who carry and continue to carry the light of their loved ones, the Federal Advisory Commission who guided the creation of the memorial. As I mentioned earlier, the National Park Foundation who financially supported this endeavor to help build this amazing place. The Flight 93 Memorial Task Force, who was the embodiment of this community, coming together with the families to ensure that this mission was met and continues to live through the work of the Friends of Flight 93. And finally, to the National Park Service, which every day is committed to caring for this memorial and sharing the story of 40 very, very special people. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, as we conclude here this evening, I would like to invite the families to join the speakers at the base of the Tower of Voices. And to those watching from home, and around the world, thanks to EarthCam, who so generously gives so often throughout the national park system. We are truly grateful. And thank you all for joining us here this evening. We invite you to visit the memorial in the future to hear these 40 symbolic voices echoing throughout the countryside and on this gentle landscape. As we conclude this evening together, I would also ask that everyone approach the tower in silence, allowing the chimes to speak to each and every one of us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here and sharing this special moment. Good night.